All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Planner's Knowledge. This is an opportunity to meet a variety of different authors as they talk about their different genres as well as their author's journey. I am your host, Dr. Kathleen Walls, and I am here with, oh, I got a little feedback. Let me turn that off. There we go. I am here with mother and daughter duo. I feel like I have some superheroes in the room here. And Lydia and Jess, and they are going to share their beautiful story. It actually brought tears to my eyes as I was reading about it because I just think it's so special. And I'm super excited to bring them to you this evening so they can share the uniqueness of their story. So, welcome, Lydia and Jess, to the show.
Thanks for having us.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. So Lydia and I had the opportunity to somewhat meet, was about 2 weeks now?
About 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I forget
about
the
2 weeks
date already.
ago.
I'm
Yeah, I
just
know.
looking to
The 19th. It was the 19th of October.
Okay, yes,
And
right.
yes, and we were at the Plymouth Meeting Mall here in Pennsylvania. So I have a global audience, so I need to let people know. That's why when you ask me, like, where am I located? I'm like, Philadelphia. I'm so used to people, not being in state or close by. So when you said where you were, I was like, oh yeah, we did meet locally. So, so we had a chance to meet there. And your book cover was so eye-catching and so cute. But let's first tell people a little bit about you. So, would you take a moment and introduce yourself and then introduce your daughter as well?
Okay, well, I'm Lydia Cohn. My maiden name is Yingling, and my mother is actually the author of our books. These were stories that she wrote for me and my siblings when we were young, little in the 1960s, and they got put into like a crappy little folder like this. Actually, this is my folder, so it's not as crappy as hers was, but they were just in here like typed up like this, just
Wow.
all different ones. There's my mom right there.
Oh.
So she handed me this folder when they downsized back in 1987. Do you want these? And I'm like, yeah. I just always thought her work was terrific. So I held on to them for decades, thinking,
Hmm.
what do I do with these? I mean, I couldn't
Hmm.
envision. I didn't have illustrations. I don't have the writing gift that Jess has it. My husband has it, but it wasn't one for me. And then Jess started working with a publishing company, and she called me up with this brilliant idea that these stories would make great children's books. So
Hmm.
that's how it started. Is that enough for you want to jump
Wow. Come on, Jess.
Yeah, so I have a degree in creative writing and a publishing certificate from UNC Wilmington, and I started working at Mascot Books at the time, which is the publisher of The Story of the Can't That Could and The Story of the Curious Elf. And I worked in acquisitions, so I was the one who reviewed all the submissions, reviewed all the books, and really got to choose which titles we published. And
Hmm.
so I realized that they did a lot of children's books, and these stories were really great in that format, and with the right illustrations, they could be really precious and something that could be passed down for generations in other families, not just ours. So I took
Hmm.
the books to the team and I said, this is a really great story that my grandmother wrote. I think they would make really great titles to our collection, and they agreed. So we ended up publishing both of those books and working with the illustrators. So it was a really fun project for both of us that we got to bond over a little bit, and I've just enjoyed so much of seeing how much that's taken off. I no longer work at the publishing company, but I still love supporting independent authors like my mom. So I'm here
Hmm.
from the book selling side now.
Love it. Love it. I just want to highlight here. We have a greetings to you and said, thank goodness you held on to them.
Yep. Well, now
Definitely.
hundreds of people have them now, which is awesome, and it really, my motivation has always been just to get my mom's work noticed and out there to the world, because they are fun. They're really fun
Hmm.
stories, and the little ones really enjoy it quite a bit. But the
Hmm.
parents do too. They find that somebody I met at the Plymouth Meeting Mall, he said every night his kids are making him read both books. He has three children, so he reads both books three
Oh,
times every night. So that makes me feel good.
that is amazing. Jess, what's that like to hear your grandmother's words being read in other people's homes?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, I have such fond memories of reading the story of the Curious Elf every Christmas Eve. We'd sit down and my mom would do, a little elf voice, and it was just one of those things where she just read it from, the paper printout. It wasn't a book form. And then the first Christmas that we actually got to read the physical book was so special. And now that my cousins have kids, this is their great grandmother's work, and so I love knowing that other families, other kids are experiencing the same joy that we felt.
Hmm. Yeah, now let's talk about this. And we have so many people joining us in the chat. Welcome, everyone. And I know we even have more people who are listening. So thank you all for joining us this evening. If you haven't subscribed to Ask Dr. Walls 525 on YouTube, please take a moment and do so. So here you have these stories that you've heard your entire life. And Lydia, you grew up hearing these stories as
Oh, yeah.
well.
I memorized some of them to present. I remember third grade presented the Can't That Could.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
they made you memorize and then get up in front of the class. And I had it in memory already, so it was kind of cheating on homework. But
well, let's tell the audience about these books so that they can be sure. Jenna already told us both are fantastic books. So tell us about these two books.
okay, well, we chose the first one was this one, The Story of the Can't That Could.
So cute.
And I love the character. This is one thing with Jess's company that she got me involved with. They helped me pick out an illustrator because I didn't know what this character looked like. I had no idea. And you had me go to a page where there were like 350 illustrators, and I could pick 4, 5, 6 of them to get examples. And this lady nailed it. She's Ana Sebastian. She's in Spain. I should have told her about this. I'll have to send it to her. So I've never met her, but I had her illustrate this book, and then we liked what she did so much that we had her illustrate the next one. But this is a little Cant who he's feeling sorry for himself. He's just sitting around all mopey and feeling sorry for himself, watching everybody else. We call them the Coulds playing. So he's the Cant, and he's watching all the Coulds play, and just feeling sorry for himself. So along comes a little elf. And the little elf says, what's the matter with you? Can't you find something to do? And these both stories are all written in verse because these are written as poems.
Yeah.
And so the little elf then tries to help him change his attitude. And that's really all it is. And I love what our illustrator, Anna, did, because the big question we had, Jess, you might remember, was how do we change Can't into a could without changing his color, without changing what he's wearing, without giving him the whole business of not having to look like anybody else or be anybody else, but be yourself. So the characters in the book all looked extremely different. And some of them have 3 eyeballs and some of them have wings, like you can see right here. And if you can see.
Yeah, lift it up. There we go. That's good.
So Cant was sitting on a rock one day, watching the Coulds having fun at play and how they laughed and had such fun. But Cant just sat wishing he was one. So that's what it's about. The little journey. He goes on his little way, and Cant at the end, of course, becomes a Could, and he helps another Cant along the way. So it has lots of messages in there. The schools really like it because there's a lot of schools talking about growth mindset.
Yeah.
So that fits right in with their curriculum. And the little ones like it just because they love the character. So.
Jess, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun getting to see the test sketches for this. I always pictured the character as literally the word spelled out. So it was just really interesting to see, the different takes of the illustrations. And I love what we came up with. My dad and I actually ended up creating a stuffed animal of the Cant that my mom
this
now
is the little one.
I love it.
Yeah, so she now gets to take them to the different schools and different visits and the book signings, and I think that's just like, this is Cant. This is who it is. To see it really come to life is really fun.
Now, what was that? Like you said, you had a different vision, and you didn't have a vision at all what he looked like or what Cant looked like. What was that moment when that illustrator sent it to you and you said, yes, that's exactly what
it was exciting. It was really, really exciting. I think we made one minor change, which was she had little teeth with him. And I said, no, I don't think I want him to have teeth. And that was it. And people, the little kids are like, well, is he a monster? Is he, and I'm like, he's whatever you want him to be. And that's what's so neat. He doesn't look like anything else. He's totally unique. And I love that. And I think another version was that we had a choice between orange and blue. Do you remember that, Jess?
Yeah.
And orange, I mean, he was just it. He just spoke to us.
You
So
just felt it. You knew it as soon
yeah,
as you
and I
saw
love
them.
what she did with the other characters too, like making them all look so different and happy, and him looking so mopey. And then
Hmm.
as he transitions, it's just wonderful to see it happen.
Yeah. Now, what was that? So this was book number one for you.
Yep.
And when did you start this process and how long did it last?
Well, luckily it was already written.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I really liked going with the company Jess had been working with is they weren't going to change any of the wording. And I really wanted to be true to my
Fantastic.
mom. So
Hmm.
that was important to us. I think we started in early 2019, maybe late 2018. And I think it was late 2018. And then we actually released it in September 2019. So,
Okay.
and I was already ordering more books before the end of the year because I had a full schedule between January and June at different bookstores and different schools and whatnot. So
Hmm.
it went over well. It received the Mom's Choice Award, which was, I didn't know about these awards, but her company, you know, I think you submitted it for me or something like that. That was an exciting time to be
Hmm.
awarded, to see her work be awarded. And she's won 2 awards for that book. And she was also nominated by the Authors Elite as for Best Children's Book. So that was exciting.
Now and your mom made her transition in what year?
2008.
And that it's incredible. And I'm thinking so many people have these keepsakes from their parents or grandparents,
Yeah.
and many may not have even thought about turning them into
Well, there
books.
you go. Yeah. I'm sure that, well, just from meeting all the authors that I've met in this whole process, there's just so much good work out there. I'm floored.
I know there's another author who I met last year at the Collingswood Book Festival. Her name is Amelia Griggs, and I did an interview with her. And she had her mother's, and I think maybe some of her grandmother's recipes from Italy.
Oh wow.
And she's included them in some of her storybooks, where it's, the child and the parent making meatballs and oh, I forget, pizzelles, I think, are the other thing, but she puts the recipe in there.
Aw.
So you two are an example of what can be done with these treasures that
Yeah.
exist in families. Jess, what are you thinking?
Yeah, since I worked in the publishing industry, I've seen a lot of different variations of that, similar to like the recipes of people just kind of preserving their family history. I think that's a really wonderful tool because it's not just passes it down for your family, but it's something that kind of relates to other families as well. So if there's a family recipe, a story, an heirloom, definitely branch out on that, and you never know who's going to relate to it. So
Hmm.
I really encourage people to dig into their family heirlooms and see what they can find.
Yeah. And I love the fact, so my illustrators for my children's books, they're based in St. Lucia. And so I've had a chance to physically meet the owner of the company years ago, but I haven't met the team except virtually. We have had a chance to meet. But what was that feeling like for you to hear this person is in Spain, you haven't physically met, and you're turning over these treasures to this person? What was that like for you?
I was excited. I was so excited. It took forever to get over there by boat, but I also
Mhm.
sent her the little plushie. And
Uh-huh.
I think for her, it was probably the most exciting is to see her drawing turn into this character. So she was
Mhm.
excited, and she was happy to do our second book. So
Okay. Well,
yeah, I think
let's
someday I'd like to go meet her. It would be neat. We've only conversed on the Facebook Messenger kind of thing.
yeah. I think it would too. And it's so interesting. Like I said, my team is in St. Lucia, and when they get a chance to see that physical reality that they've created, and then you've turned yours into a plushie. I have a plushie of one of my characters as well. And I also turned the first book into an animation. So that's something else you may
Oh,
want
there
to
you go.
consider. It does, it gives it a whole different
Oh, I'll
type
bet.
of life
Yeah, I don't know
to it.
how will he walk on these little skinny legs? Huh?
But
these long arms. It'd be kind of fun. You should look into that.
now some people are looking, they're saying, "Oh, I want one of those. Can they order those
Oh, I
plushies?"
wish we ordered those right before COVID,
Okay.
so we were stuck with them because
Okay.
everything I had scheduled from January
Oh
to June
goodness.
had canceled.
Yes.
So they were sitting on the sidelines, but then eventually, as things started picking up, it was mostly the schools. I do a lot of visits in schools, and the kids like to order them, so they are currently sold out.
Okay.
I
Well,
do have a small hoarded amount for my grandkids.
okay. Okay. All right, y'all. You're gonna have to wait until she decides to order some more if that ends up coming back. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about this second book.
Oh yeah, the story of the curious elf. That's
Mm-hmm.
this one here. You can see already it's a very different kind of book.
Yes.
This one is about, again, a little elf, as you can see, he's looking out the window there. And he decided he was going to sneak away on Santa's sleigh one Christmas Eve so he could see the boys and girls open up their toys. And so he does. And then he hops off at one house. And believe me, when I was a little girl, we did Elf on the Shelf every year. This was
Well,
not a new thing to us.
as soon as I saw that, I said, "Oh, is this Elf on the Shelf
That's
related?"
no, no, not at all. I'm going to read you the first page here because it's just so
Please
sweet how
do.
it starts out. One Christmas Eve, I went to bed. Santa's coming, Mommy said. As I lie there, eyes half closed, blankets pulled up to my nose, I thought of all the things I might get from Santa this Christmas night.
Mhm.
As I was drifting off to sleep, I thought I heard a wee voice weep. And so then the story goes on with this little elf on the shelf here crying, and the little boy's in the bed there.
Oh.
And the elf begins to tell the story of how he didn't listen to Santa and he snuck on the sleigh and he went into a house and, all of that. And then throughout the story, since he gets off and leaves the sleigh, I'll read you this page. When all of a sudden it occurred to me, I didn't know where to go, you see. I had no map, I had no sleigh. How was I to find my way? I wandered round the whole year through. I've been so lonely and I've missed you. He's talking to Santa.
Oh.
The whole time he spoke, he sniffled and cried till I thought he was falling apart inside. Says, I know. It's like, and some of the kids, I have to say, when I'm reading this to the kids, some of them are like, and I'm like, get to the next page. They get so sad, especially the little girls. They get so sad. I do it in a little elf voice, which I think.
Oh, we like elf voices. We'll take an elf voice on the show.
So, and then when we did this book, Jess had recommended doing a different kind of cover. It's a very soft, smooth feeling. I don't know. Is there a technical name for that, Jess?
A matte cover.
A matte cover.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the back of the book, we put in my mom had a collection of verses for young children. So we put a few of them in the back of the book, just little verses.
Cute.
And the kids love that. So
Yes.
And it also got the Mom's Choice Award.
Now, what is the Mom's Choice Award?
They are working, I don't know how many countries, hundreds of countries around the world, and they choose products, not just books, but I was obviously in their book department, but it could be any kind of product, and they choose what they think is worthwhile. Mom's Choice, I think it was the Gold Seal of Excellence.
Okay.
Honoring
Congratulations.
Yeah. So that was a big feather in my cap, which makes it easy to promote too.
Mm-hmm. I love that it's 3 generations working together on these projects. It is truly, truly amazing. Jess, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot to take in when you see it actually in like a storyboard and then in a physical form. But I've had the privilege of attending some of the book signing events and some of the readings, and those have just been so amazing to see the little kids, like my mom just said, about them watching them listen to the story and have their reactions. I think it's so fun, but also heartwarming to see that actually play out, and whether they they believe in Santa, or they are, maybe they celebrate Hanukkah or some other holiday, like they still can kind of understand the elf and listening to Santa and have that that little tale at the end, just kind of a good moral of the story. So I love seeing it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the empathy that's activated there and so many other skills.
Listening to your adults and don't do what they say don't do. So you might get stuck somewhere for a year.
Reason. That's right.
Yep.
So many lessons.
I think also too, when we're doing our events, like the one I did with you, Kathleen, that sometimes it's hard to capture people's attention as they're walking by, but all I do is hold up one of my books and say, this is a story that was written for me when I was a little girl by my mother. And immediately people start walking towards me and want to hear more. So people love the story behind the story, which has made it, easy for us to start a conversation.
Definitely.
We have a few more poems that we're going to have to do here. It's
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we're working on a third if I ever get some time to spend on it. And that, Jess, I was looking at the whole folder again today, and there's probably 2 more that we could easily do. So that
I
would
think
be a few. Yeah. So
Now,
I better get
will
moving.
you ever, do you think you'll write? Now, I saw on your website you do some poetry.
Me?
Is
No,
it that
that's
wasn't
my mom.
you?
That's
That's
my
your
mom.
mom too? Oh
Yep,
my
there's a story
goodness.
on there. I forget what it's. I think it says my next book or something.
Yes.
It's called The Nature's Artist. One of
Yes.
my favorites. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that's her too.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, don't have that talent. But
Now
I
I
think
heard.
sometimes I think, of our my nieces and nephews all have little kids right now, and they
Mhm.
all have the book and they know the character and whatnot. And I think how neat is it that, you know, they themselves could grow up to be writers.
Yes.
And now they have this in their pocket to say this is possible.
Yes.
I have the talent. There really is talent here. Like, because we all need to be validated, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Mhm.
Jessica wrote, you write.
Yeah, occasionally. I mean, that's what I went to college for, but mostly
Mhm.
it was for learning what makes a book a good book. So I do
Mhm.
write. There might be a story I publish in the future at some point, but right
Yeah.
now I focus on amplifying other people's stories. I own it's called the Reading Chamber. It's a online bookstore for young adult fiction. So I
Mhm.
focus a lot on independent authors, and so I'm kind of focusing more on amplifying their voices instead of my own at the moment. But we'll see about writing in the future.
Fantastic. Well, let's do a little educational piece here. So, for those of you who are listening that are thinking about becoming authors and or know some authors, you held up two different covers. So, we saw the matte cover. If you can hold them side by side, I'm assuming the first one was a
It'll
glossy
come
jet.
across on the camera. One's a little, well, yeah, much
Yeah, we
glossy.
can. So, Jess, you want to tell us
Work
a little bit
together.
about what's going on between the two and what are the benefits?
There we go.
Yeah, so there's a glossy cover, which is the Can't That Could, and then a matte cover, which is the story of the Curious Elf. A matte one is going to have more of a velvety touch to it, so it's a very soft texture. You'll want to get a scuff resistant, which is what is on the story of the Curious Elf, because that way, if you're pushing the book on a store shelf, it's not going to really get some scratches on it. A glossy one is going to be more durable than a matte, but a matte is what's really popular right now. So if you go into a bookstore, most titles are going to have a matte cover on them. They both don't have dust jackets, so they're just covers. A dust jacket is really unnecessary if you're doing a children's book because they get torn, they just get taken off, and they add much more to the actual retail price. So sometimes it can deter people from purchasing the book. So both of those covers there are going to be just really a hardcover are durable. They're going to be a lot more stronger than a paperback would. So that's one of the reasons that we went with those.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you also done them in paperback or have you only just done in the hardback?
We only have the hardback, which I think really adds to the quality of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know I could, do self-publishing and do it, but I think they're selling so well as they are.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that if it ain't broke?
that's right. Keep that wheel rolling. There's no flat. Keep it going. So
Yeah.
now, one of the things is you had the opportunity to go through a publishing company. And what was it now? Your daughter was there, so your experience is definitely unique in that way.
Yes.
You mentioned one of the benefits was that you were able to keep the words, your mom's words, as they were. What else was your publishing experience like?
Well, Jess basically held my hand. She had a whole team working on this. We had the editors, we had I don't know, Jess. I'm gonna let her explain because I just
Okay.
took along for the ride. I gave final approval on everything, but really I didn't know what I didn't know, and
Right.
so I really relied on Jessica and her company. And Jess, I'm gonna let you explain how that worked.
Yeah, so I worked for Mascot Books, which is now called Amplify Publishing Group. And so one of the things that they really highlighted was working with authors like my mom, who really did not know much about the publishing industry. And so it was our job to kind of walk them through it. So my mom
Mhm.
actually had a very similar experience to what any of the authors would have, except that she knew me personally. It wasn't just meeting over like this or over a phone call. So it's where the book went from the manuscript stage, so what was already typed out, to a production editor. And that production editor, my friend Susan, they worked with the manuscript just to kind of format it into a book layout, and then work with the illustrator and my mom to decide on who they were going to work with for illustrations, to get the storyboard created and then colored and then laid out with a graphic designer. That company, they focused also on actually marketing and distributing the book. So it got out into physical bookstores and to different markets than, they might have a little bit more access to than a self-published book would, just because it has like a warehouse, there was an inventory. So there's a lot of perks to that. So with my mom, she really got to have that key point of contact, Susan, who was a really great help with it. So I got to check in, with Susan and be like, hey, what's going on? And she'll get to show me things first. And then they'll go to my mom. So like she said, like she had final approval of everything, which all the authors at that company do. They have that final approval over intellectual rights, like the manuscript and the illustrations, they get to choose that. So she had a very similar experience other than just knowing me.
And
that's fun. I enjoyed the whole process.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how were you during that process?
I, like I said, Jess held my hand. So she just said, she set up a schedule. I don't know if you did that or someone else. I think you set up the initial schedule, and then it was passed on to the production with their schedule and so forth. So you introduced me with them on a Facebook call, or no, just a regular phone conference call, because this was back 2019-ish, right? Yes. So the process was just, I love the fact that they didn't want to change any of her wording, because that was important to me. But I also remember when we designed the cover, I was excited, like just the way, the fonts that they chose throughout the book and how they did it. And one of the really cool things that they did, this was, I don't know who you can give credit, just to who designed this page, but in this book, my favorite page is this one. Just, I love how they did the words on that one. So it was just a little bit different. Who did it? Matt?
Matt. Yep.
I love that. And he did something similar on the Curious Elf as well. There's another page that's similar like that. So made it come to life. And so the process for me was easy. Kathleen, it's a lot like choosing off a menu.
Okay.
The way this company works is you can pick and choose the different things that you want. Obviously, I didn't need a ghostwriter because it was written. I didn't really need an editor. They did go through it to make sure that there weren't any, editorial, grammar mistakes, I guess. But my mom knew her English language pretty well. And then, just going through the process, it was easy. It went from there to production. The most fun was the characters and the illustrators and that whole, and then coloring it all in. Like, it's just, I just loved the whole process. I thought it was very easy. They also have a marketing program that's phenomenal. So they booked me in, I forget how many, 11, 12 Barnes and Nobles down the coast.
Wow.
So that I could go and do the readings. And then from there I could get into different schools. And so it was easy for me. I think some people maybe do struggle, especially self-publishing. It's hard to get into places. I did find that to be an easier process, because as soon as I walked into a store, you could sense that they weren't real supportive of independent published books. Many are, the smaller stores are, of course, but then you'd get that sense of, well, no, you can order from Ingram, you can order, and it has an ISBN, and they can look it up. One store I walked in, one Barnes and Noble. I had done a school down the street, and I was on my way home, and I thought, I'll just pop in with my books and see what happens. And this guy loved the books, and he immediately took me back to his office and ordered in 2 cases and had me sign up. I know, it was like, this is great.
Wow.
And again, it's my mom, it just
her
work, and that was it was nice to give her that. And I couldn't have done it without Jess, for sure. It didn't even occur to me. I didn't know how to do it. So this is so cool.
It is. I just love this story, and I thank you all for sharing it with us. It is incredible, and just your mother's legacy just continues to live on through these books, and the bonding that continues to happen with her through the two of you and this process it's incredible. It really is. It really is.
It's been something we can share with all of our family. And now, as Jess said, other families enjoy it too, which I love. I had some people who, when I first came out, one of my nieces was at the age where she was going to a lot of baby showers, and they often ask for cards or books instead of cards. So people would buy the books and sign it, of course. And now they would get duplicates of, Brown Bear. With our book, there were no duplicates. So she was excited, and she gave it to all her big parties that she was invited to. And then other people caught on to that, and they were saying, well, are you going to get that book? If you're not going to get that book, I want to get that book. And then I had people sending me pictures of their babies as they read it to them. And one person sent me a picture of the same child a year later, still loving that book. So
Oh.
that's been cool that it stays with them. And even
Mm-hmm.
one person sent me a picture of her daughter laying in bed with the little character,
Oh.
sound asleep. It was kind of cute. And then I've had a
Yeah.
couple kids on our website, which can I plug my website?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I just had it up there.
It's
Yeah.
just joanyingling.com,
Mm-hmm.
www.joanyingling.com. You'll see some videos of book reviews from there's two little girls that did some really cute little book reviews, which I thought I'd love to get
Mm-hmm.
more of those. They were so cute. So
Yeah, I had a great time going through your website, and I encourage people to do so. And looking at the pictures
oh
was
boy, I have to add
absolutely,
so many more. It's so out of date, but
oh,
time gets away from me.
yes. And the book reads and so forth. So, how many are you're still available to go out to schools
Oh
now?
yes, I still do schools. I'd like to do more. I like that's my favorite thing. I like that more than doing the shows because I love interacting with the kids, especially second graders, first and second grade. They're just so I can they can really relate to it. I start out by saying like, what couldn't you do last year that you can do this year? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's swimming or tying my shoe or riding a bicycle and on and on. And then I share with them, what was that like? What was the learning process like? And were you frustrated? And we go through that kind of stuff, and they can really grasp that idea.
Yes.
So that's why I think I enjoy it, because when we go through the book and he transitions from a can't to a could, it's how did that happen? What changed?
Mm-hmm.
Did he change colors? Did he change clothing? Did he change his, how many horns he had? Did he grow an extra eyeball? And the kids some of them are not really sure where to go with that. I mean, some catch
Mm-hmm.
on, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because especially the ones that are in class studying positive growth mindset,
Yes.
that's a little
Yes.
easier. But first grade, they're not quite up there. Second grade, they are more so. And it's kind of neat then to be able to, watch their faces and see the face light up when they realize, oh, he just changed his attitude. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the poem that my mom wrote, there's always a little thing in the back of could not can is what I'll say. Try is what I'll do each day. Can't is only for the lazy one, but could can always get something done. Never be a
Mm.
can't when you can be a could, for coulds always do what the can'ts should. Yeah.
I love it. And on that note, I love that. That
You
is
can imagine, Kathleen, I don't know if I had a chance to tell you this, but I'm one of 7 children. I'm right in the middle.
no,
And
you
I
did not tell
think
me that.
I think my mother heard I can't a lot.
Okay.
I think there was some inspiration for that in the book. Yeah, I think so. And then the Curious Elf, I'm pretty sure came from the Elf on the Shelf that we always did. There was
Hmm.
that. But there's more poems. There's one about a little league. There's one about books themselves, like how they're magic carpets that take you for a ride.
I
And
read that. I love that poem.
oh,
Do
I
you
have that
have
one up
that? Yeah,
there.
it's posted on your website.
Okay, okay. And then
It,
the Nature's Artist, and then there's the Boy's Dream, which I was reading today, and I thought that's another good one. So
mhm.
yeah, there's a few in there. It's kind of fun. I had an old friend of mine, had lost touch with her years ago, probably around third or fourth grade, and she Facebook messaged me, said, "I just picked up your mom's book. I'm getting ready to read it to my grandkids." And she said, your mother wrote a poem about my dad. And I said, I think I have that. And sure enough, I
Oh,
had it in the folder. She was so excited because she said they had the copy, but they had lost it over the years. So here I
oh,
pulled it out and mailed it over to her. And I, of course, gave her the extra book and the little plushie, like here, because especially
oh,
when they knew my mom, it's like
yeah.
I have a piece of her now too. So she had memories of my mom. So
That's super special. Jess,
that
what's
was fun.
going through your mind as you're hearing all of this?
Yeah, it's really nice to know that my grandmother, left such a legacy. I mean, I think I was 12 when she passed away, so I didn't get to have as much time with her. But my grandfather, he lived a lot longer, so he was alive during this process, and it was heartwarming to see him with like the plush toy, and he had a
Oh,
display on his
wow.
outside his front door. He had like a little display with her books and the
Oh,
picture and like the awards and stuff. And so knowing, people who knew my grandmother and got to
mhm.
see a book that she created and something that she didn't actually get to see, I think is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow,
He
that
sold
is
a few books
really
too, didn't he?
did it.
That was fun.
And like you said, the story behind the story is a story within itself.
Mhm.
So that's truly, truly
I
amazing.
wish I wish I could ask her. more questions about it. I mean, I just took her writing for granted. These were just, doesn't everybody's mom have poems stuck in a drawer somewhere? Like,
No.
and I just wish had we been going through this process when she was still here, it would have been fun. I did ask her sister, if she had any recollections, and she said, "Oh yeah, your mother was always writing." She recalled her writing a poem about their little baby brother. So that was back when my mother was,
Wow.
double digits, probably 10 or 11.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so she always wrote it. And I wonder how many stories she wrote that we don't have.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to them? Because I'm sure she was a little critical of herself and probably didn't think they were any good. And so it'd be kind of that part. I find the questions I'll never have answers to.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, but we do have the writing talent in the family, so we'll just keep passing it on and sharing it with people. And Jess, I hope you do get to write a novel someday. That would be kind of fun. I like that Jess is focusing on the young adult books, because Jess, when she was old enough to just open a book, was into books. Like she just book. I used to say a book junkie, right? So we would go to Barnes and Nobles and use the credit card points, but it was like $1,800 to $2,000 a year that we were spending over there.
Oh my goodness!
Just to keep her habit. It was. I loved it. I loved it because how can you go wrong with books, right? Better she be doing books than anything else. And so she's always loved the books. And then for her big struggle, as I think I read on your the reading chamber when you first launched it, saying that you always had trouble finding the young adult books. So that I like that you're focusing on that. And
so just tell the audience about the reading chamber and how they can see it, become a part of it. What needs to be done for them to know more about it?
Yeah, well, I have a website. It's called thereadingchamber.com. So it is an online bookstore for young adult fiction. So there are a bunch of different titles on there from independently published authors as well as traditionally published ones. But I don't like to focus on like the best sellers, the big names, because you can find those in every story. If you go to a Target, Barnes and Nobles, I want to focus on the little guys, the ones who don't have their names quite out there just yet. So I've really been amplifying those independent authors, specifically in the YA space. When I was, younger, going into Barnes and Nobles or independent bookstore, that area, like that category, there just weren't enough titles for me. Once you read them, it was the same books over and over, or there just was a couple shelves. And so I wanted to have something that was completely YA, so some people can go and find new books. And it's not just for teens. I'm an adult now, I'm 29, and I still know people who are older than me that love YA. So it's not just that, it's not just for teens, but it also has book boxes, blind date with a book. So you get to choose if you want like a romance, fantasy, contemporary fiction. I'll pick one out based off of your preferences. The book boxes are themed to different months. And then I also have book merch like bookmarks, stickers, things like that. And all of the book merch is purchased from women-owned businesses. So I'm also supporting other small businesses on that sector as well. So it's a really great hub for people just to find their next read.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure they love you on Book Talk. My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well. All right. So as we're talking about kind of age ranges, Jess, I'm going to start with you with young adult, and then I'm going to come back to you, Lydia, about age ranges for these books. So young adult, and actually, Jess, because you do have knowledge, what are the different book categories and ages that go with them?
Yeah. So if you're starting with young adult, there's essentially two separate sections. One of them is going to be for young readers, so 13 to about 15. Those are books that really focus much more on like friendships, maybe a first love. They're more clean romances. So they're really great for somebody who's transitioning out of like chapter books, like think like Percy Jackson, that style. They're transitioning out of that. They're having something a little bit more of with real life scenarios that they're facing. Then you'll have something that is a little bit older. So really from age 15 to about 20. Those are much more fantasy books. So think like Twilight, Divergent, The Maze Runner, things like that. So a little bit of an older audience.
Hunger Games fall into that too?
The Hunger Games, yes. So ones that are like more dystopian, higher fantasy, have like an older character to it. Those are going to be for an older audience. I always tell readers, it's really what fits them. When I was 13, I was reading about 17, 8-year-olds because that's just what I liked and that's what I was more mature for. So every reader is going to be a little bit different. So it's good to have a wide variety there. And then once you're under 13, that's going to be the middle grade section. So again, like Percy Jackson, Kingdom Keepers. There's a lot of other series out right now, like Disney Descendants books. So ones that are kind of transitioning from picture books. And then you'll have early readers. Early readers are more for like 3rd grade to 5th grade, with middle grade books probably being about 5th grade to about 8th grade. And I say the grade levels just because that's kind of the target range there. And then once you get under early readers, which those are just shorter chapter books, that's when you get into picture books, and they're typically from grade 3 down.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Because
Jess has the talent, Kathleen, to pick books for other people. Not only has she read all of them, I don't know how many, she must have well over 1,000 by now, but she reads still a lot of, she usually have like 3 books going at the same time, right?
wow.
So she has read all these books, and then on her website, she'll give you a description of the books. It makes it easy if someone's going to buy it for themselves or even as a gift.
Yeah.
Which I like, so she can say, ask the person a couple of questions. She did this when she was little. Her little friends would not read, and the parents would say to me, "Your daughter reads so much. I wish my daughter would read." And Jess would pick a book out for them, and they would be hooked, and they'd be coming back for the next one.
I love it.
So it's a real talent that she's always had, and I'm glad to see that she's making a business out of it.
It's so good. It almost sounds like a Hallmark movie where it's like that specialist, right?
That'll be the next thing, Jess. After we do the animation.
There we go. But it is a niche, and it is such a gift, because when you do find that book, that genre, and that right age range for you, it does. I used to sit in Borders. Once I found my niche of what I preferred to read, I would just sit there and I would find that author and I would just read everything that they had. And then I'd go and I'd say, all right, give me an author that's similar to this. And they would recommend, and I'd go back and so forth. And I just consume them, basically.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how she did it.
Yeah.
I can remember going to the library and she'd have a stack of books and they'd say, "Oh no, honey, you can only take 3."
Right.
Like, she's going to read 3 before we even get home. Like, we're back in the picture book days, It's kind of funny. But so my book is for 8 and younger. I think if they're a slow reader, then the 3rd grade works, but mostly it's 2nd grade and down. And like I said, I sell a lot of baby books. So grandmothers love to buy I have a lot of grandmothers who buy my book. And if someone's learning to read, it's a great book to learn how to read. I had 2 reading specialists tell me The Story of the Camp That Could is perfect for someone just learning how to read, because the rhyming helps them. There are some compounded words, and then there's some sight words. So it gives them the variety, and the fact that they like the characters and like the story make it where they're going to keep their attention there. So it's fun for me to hear them read out loud to their younger siblings, and I love when they do that.
It's so important. And as I mentioned, I do this show to expose people to the variety of books that are out there. I started doing this show last year, specifically in October, because I wanted people to buy books for the holiday. And we're moving into the shopping season. We're moving into gift giving. There's parents who want to buy gifts for classes and things like that. I encourage you, buy some books. Support these authors. You see the websites up here. We have 2 fantastic books from Lydia, and her mother and her daughter. And then Jess, you are also supporting a variety of authors as well. And we as readers, we enjoy them so much, and we have to support the authors so that they continue. And just as you said, right, we have some who are behind traditional publishing houses that are getting that extra oomph and push. But then you have all of these the wonderful independent authors who need that extra push. There's nothing like, for me, when I get a ding that there's a royalty, and it's like, oh, my book exists somewhere, right?
That is fun.
It is. And as an author, your book will go places that you may never see. Your book will meet people that you will never physically get a chance to meet.
Yeah. I've had teachers from literally, I think, Australia. There's a woman who did a TV show during COVID, and she had my book, and she did a whole big show
Wow.
on it. And there were teachers
Wow.
in like other states that I'll never know, that wanted to get permission. Didn't they go to you, Jess, the publisher, to
Yep.
ask permission to read the book to their students or something like that? And so, yeah, it's been neat because I'll never know who they are, but I know that there's kids all over the world that are hearing the stories. So.
That's right. That's right. And that is just so amazing. And your mother just continues to touch and touch and touch
Yeah.
so many people's lives. So people who are listening in the chat, if you have any questions and or comments, please feel free to go ahead and put them in there. I'll get to as many as I can. Lydia, what events do you have coming up?
Let's see. I think I wrote myself a little cheat sheet here. We have, well, I think I told you a little bit about our book authors group.
Yes.
We have an event coming up in 2 weeks with Jess is going to be our guest speaker, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
So we call it the Publishing Industry Insights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be at the Greater Plymouth Community Center, which is right down the street from the Plymouth Meeting Mall, 2910 Jolly Road, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And Jess is going to be talking about all the things you didn't know that you don't know about the publishing industry, and pitfalls, and that you can avoid, how to present to a publisher, just all that kind of stuff. So it saves
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people. We had a lot of people at the shows lately who have a book written, and they're like, "Well, I just don't have an illustrator." And I'm like, "You might not need an illustrator. In fact, they prefer that you come without an illustrator."
Mm-hmm.
So, there are people stuck in that, and they have a great book and they have a great idea, but they don't know the next step.
Yes.
So I think a big part of our audience, Jess, in a couple of weeks is going to be people like that who just need to know what is it I don't know that I need to know. And so I'm excited. She's going to come speak with the group. So that's November 14th. And November 9th, I'll be at the Upper Dublin Library. We're doing another local authors event up there. So that'll be neat. And then I have several stores in the area that carry my books. So I'll be making the rounds and doing some book signings and things of that sort.
And share the stores that carry.
Regina Marie Designs in Skipback. They carry my books. They always sell quite a few throughout the year, which is so kind of them. I love it. Artist Loft in Conshohocken is another store that sells the books. The Cookie Cutters in Plymouth Meeting Mall is opening up next month, and he just bought a case of each book to sell in his store, which I was excited. And people who don't know, I'll give him a plug. The Cookie Cutters is a hair cutting salon for kids. So, and it's really cool. He gave us a tour on what it was going to be like. They have these cool chairs they can sit in, and they can play games. And there's all these little different sections in the salon where the kids can go, and broken down to age group. Kind of cool. And then Elmwood Park Zoo in Norristown, Pennsylvania, also carries my book. So, and then also Granddad's, or what is it? I should have written that one down. Granddad's Toy Store, I think it's called, or something like that, in Phoenixville, has a book as well.
Now, as far as making let's see who we have here. They said both are wonderful books. So people who don't have these books yet, go out and get these books. We done had a whole bunch of people tell you how wonderful these books are. All right. And the messages are incredible. As far as making connections with like the barbershop and the zoo and so forth. Now, is that something that you did on your own, or how did that come to pass?
It comes various different ways. The one at the zoo, I walked into their gift shop there, which anybody who hasn't been there lately, it's just a phenomenal local zoo. And the lady liked my necklace, and so we were chit-chatting, and that's how it got started. Oh, yeah, I write some books. I was just up at Peddler's Village last weekend. I was purchasing some things for our niece's little kids at the toy store. And I just said to the guy, I noticed you have a really nice collection of books, and we just started chatting, and so he's interested. So it just comes about naturally. There's plenty of stores I walk into, and I don't feel like I can start that conversation. So I don't. But if the conversation leads to it, that's how it happens. Cookie Cutters happened because he happened to buy some books when I was at the Plymouth Meeting Mall. And so we got chatting about that. So it just kind of happens that way. Regina Marie has an incredible store in Skipback, Regina Marie Designs, and they sell really incredible artist creations and everything from, pottery to paintings and sculptures and anything you can possibly imagine. So my book does very well there. And she's been kind enough to let me continue doing that. So it's been awesome.
Thank you for sharing. Just any tips or suggestions you have for any budding authors on how to make these types of connections, or any other tips that you may have to share?
Yeah, I'd say you really can't be afraid of reaching out. The worst that they can say is no. But when I worked in publishing, a lot of authors who they didn't want to, make those connections themselves. And I explained that that's really the best way to get your foot in the door by going into an independent bookstore or a place that
Mhm.
just happens to have books. They don't have to be a bookstore. I mean, the Learning Express Toys and Games, they carried some of our books at times. So really just going in, introducing yourselves and just saying like, I have this book. I'd like to be, placed in your store, and then leave it at that. Don't try to sell them on the spot with the book.
Mhm.
I think that's really important, because if they're a shopkeeper, they're not going to have the time to spend 20 minutes, looking over your book and deciding right then and there. It's just a quick, drop a business card, give them, your website or whatever you have, even maybe drop off a book for them to look at later, I think is helpful. And then also, reaching out through emails, just doing an email blast every once in a while for independent bookstores in your area, even larger stores like Barnes and Nobles, asking for the book buyer. That's going to be really helpful. Just taking, maybe 20 minutes out of your day, or even, a couple times a week or something like that, is going to be a really great resource for the book. And then also social media. I get a lot of authors who say they don't want to, be on Facebook, they don't want to be on TikTok, they don't want to be on Instagram, but it's really instrumental for reaching the audience these days. And whether it's showing your face or not, you don't have to be on camera. As long as you're showing the book, as long as you're talking about the book, there's a lot of different ways to do that. So just getting yourself out there on social media can also open up a lot of doors.
Mhm. Now, just let me ask you, do you do any coaching or consulting with authors? Is that something you're also doing?
Yeah, I absolutely do that. I have a lot of people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, so that's definitely a place to ask about coaching or consulting. I do, speaking engagements, like the one in a couple of weeks as well. It's something I'm really passionate about. I love DEI books, women empowerment books, so not just fiction, but nonfiction as well. That's what I used to work on. So any kind of book like that, I'm happy to help, but also just if you have questions, feel free to ask them. I mean, I'm always going to be helpful for authors, just kind of getting their footing in the door. I know how overwhelming the industry is. I know how people gatekeep it a lot of the times.
Mhm.
And so I just want to be as helpful as I can.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So, as our time is starting to wind down, I encourage you all, please definitely order the book. Now, tell me this, Lydia, for you, is it better if they order directly from you or go through a website? What's the best way? What's your
Oh, I
preferred
think
way?
it's what is easiest for them,
Okay.
obviously. The Can't That Could, the story of the Can't That Could is on Amazon. You can find the story of the Curious Elf on Amazon, but I did take it out of the warehouse last year because it is kind of seasonal book.
Okay.
And of course, warehouses charge you money to keep them there. So
Mhm.
for both of them, you can get them on our website, which is thejoanyingling.com. There's You can do that. You can go to Amazon. You can go to any bookstore and request it because it is in the warehouse. At least the story that can't that could is in any of the stores that I've mentioned. So available
Okay.
that way.
And
And
if
of course,
people
come to my book signing and I'll sign it for you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And if people want a signed book, where
Yeah,
should they come see you between now and the end of the year?
yeah. Either that, if they order from the website too, I sign them as well. So
Oh,
Amazon,
fantastic.
you don't get that little extra perk, but
Hmm.
it's kind of fun. I loved, and I have a fun thing like two little things that I write in there all the time. So it's kind of an encouraging word. So I like
Good,
that.
good. And tell us again about the two events that are coming up.
November 9th is the Upper Dublin Library. So that's going to be, I think, 25 authors, maybe 30
Oh, wow.
local authors. So it's not just children's books, it's all genres, all
Okay.
ages. So if you're in the area, that's a great place to go and
And what
check it out.
time is that?
Oh gosh, I think it's 11 to 3, but maybe go up on their website to be sure. And I'll be
Okay.
posting about that this week and next week.
Okay.
Um, yeah, kind of. I'm trying not to post too many things that people get the dates mixed up. So I want to,
Hmm.
but now I've got the 9th coming up, and Jess's speaking engagement is the 14th of November.
Yes.
And that's again, if anybody's thinking about writing a book, or maybe you wrote a book and you want to write more, maybe you did a self-publishing up on Amazon and you want to know how to get, how to improve it, or what are the pitfalls there? Because I know, Jess, you have said there's some great books that are really great books that are published, self-published, and then there's ones that need a little help
Yep.
to cross that line. And what am I trying to say?
Amplify them.
Amplify. There you go. Thank you, Jess. Did I answer the question? I don't even remember.
And how do people find out where that is taking place? Is there a Facebook page that they should go to, a
The easiest
website?
for me, because I don't update my website as often as I should. I really struggle with technology. It takes me forever to make the slightest change. That's why there's not any recent pictures. I mean, it's like I have so many great things to share and I just never get around to it. But the easiest is to go to my Facebook page, The Can't That Could on Facebook, because that way they will get that or Instagram, which is also the Can't That Could.
Okay.
That's where I keep people mostly posted when I think of
And
it.
yes, and if you go on to my YouTube page, if you go on the write up, so come on over to Ask Dr. Walls 525 on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and then look in the write up. You'll see links to her Instagram, her Facebook, as well
Thank
as the
you.
website as well. You're welcome. Jess, any final words? And then I'm going to pass it back to your mom for a word of inspiration before we go out. Any additional words or thoughts that you'd like to convey with the audience this evening?
Well, it's been a great chance chatting with you. I think anything I can do to help other authors is really what I love. So definitely reach out on LinkedIn, check out my website. I'm always happy to answer questions, like I said. But these books are really great. I love them. I know other people love them. So I'm just been so enjoying getting to be a part of the team here.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, any final words of inspiration for you? I mean, the whole
Well,
story's been inspirational, but anything you'd like to say in these last few moments?
well, the way I end up when I do the school events, I always have the kids tell me something that they're currently challenged with. And then I give a little mantra and the saying, I can't ride a two-wheel bicycle yet. So we use that yet word, but also never be a can't when you can be a could, because coulds always do it, the can't should.
I love it. Well, you can be an author. For those out there that needed that extra piece of encouragement, you have two individuals here who have shown you that it can be done and are willing to help. Oh, let me see. We have a question in here. It says, oh, yes. Can we see you hold up the books and these great covers again? Perfect. Right there. There we go. If somebody wants to take a screenshot for you, you can go ahead, grab that screenshot now. Lydia, put your face in between so we can see you too. There we go. All right. Jess, you got it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Kathleen, as I'm holding up this book, I have to read you the quote on the back. I love
Please
this.
do.
It's a quote from Henry Ford, and the little kids don't know who Henry Ford is. But when I tell them he's the guy who invented the car, and you see his name on the back of the trucks, they all go, oh, I know him. But anyway, the quote is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
That's right.
And I love that. So it's really about your attitude.
Definitely.
And I want to
Definitely.
thank you for having us. And
Oh, you're
I got to visit with
welcome.
Jess, who's in a whole other state. So this was kind of a fun thing.
See? So fantastic. I've had, as you know, I've had sisters on the show before, but this is my first mother-daughter duo. So I thank you all for allowing this to happen for my show this evening. And I'm so glad that you two were able to have this experience. And for your grandmother, Jess, and your mother, Lydia, to be here as well, because she made her presence very this evening. So super excited to have you all. All right, everyone, until we meet again, as always, continue to live your greatest life, and God bless. And we'll see you real soon. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.